They say every book tells a story. But what if one book decided to tell your story? Tonight, we enter a world where words are not just ink on paper. They breathe, they bleed, and they consume. Stay with me, because once you open this book, there's no turning back. I don't know why I'm writing this down. Maybe because I'm afraid that if I don't tell someone, I'll lose myself completely. For as long as I can remember, books have been my refuge. I grew up buried in them. Fairy tales at first, then novels, then whole collections that I hoarded as if they were treasure. By the time I moved into my first real apartment, I had shelves bending under the weight of more books than I had space for. It was never about the money for me. I wasn't collecting rare editions to resell or impress anyone. I just loved having them. The smell of paper, the feel of a heavy spine in my hands. It was like surrounding myself with hundreds of little worlds waiting for me to step into them. But that all changed the day I bought the Blue Book. The Find. It happened at an estate sale in a town not far from mine. Most of the books were ordinary enough, but then I saw it. A thick volume bound in faded blue leather, the cover traced with gold filigree that shimmered strangely in the dim light. No title on the front, but inside, on the first page, it read, 999 New Dawns by C. Full. I don't know why it caught me so strongly. Maybe it was the weight of it in my hands, heavier than it looked. Or maybe it was the way the gold lettering seemed too crisp, like it hadn't aged at all. The seller practically shoved it into my hands, offering me the whole set of books for cheap if I took that one too. I didn't even haggle. Something in me wanted, no, needed that book. The first story. That night, I sat down with a cup of coffee and opened it. Strangely, there was no copyright page, no publishing date, nothing. Just a table of contents listing words like fire, ice, wind, shadow, each in a different colored ink. No page numbers. I flipped to the first section, Fire and Earth, and began reading. It was a simple story. A poor boy in a desert kingdom stealing bread to keep his mother alive. But as I read, something happened. I felt the heat, not metaphorical heat, real heat, like the desert sun pressing on my skin. I smelled the bread fresh from the oven. My mouth went dry. When the boy tricked his captors and celebrated with wine, I could taste the sweetness on my own tongue. I laughed out loud, actually laughed. "This is insane," I muttered, but I kept reading. The second story. The next tale was about a fisherman battling the sea for a legendary catch. As I read, the air around me grew damp and salty. My skin prickled with ocean spray. When his boat capsized, I gasped for air, choking on nothing but still feeling like I was drowning. And I loved it. It was the most immersive reading experience of my life, more real than virtual reality, more vivid than dreams. I couldn't put the book down. The third story nearly broke me. It followed a starving tribe hunting a mammoth across a frozen wasteland. The cold seeped into my bones until I was trembling under 3 blankets. My stomach cramped as though I hadn't eaten in days. Then came the part I can't forget. The tribe turned to cannibalism to survive, and as I read it, I tasted it. My stomach lurched violently. I staggered to the bathroom, retching into the sink, gagging on flavors that weren't mine to know.
When I finally returned to the book, my leg throbbed with a sharp pain that hadn't been there before. In the story, one of the hunters had fallen and shattered her leg, bone piercing skin. My own leg pulsed with phantom pain until I could barely walk. That was when I should have stopped, but I didn't. The obsession. The next night, I told myself I'd only peek at one more story. Just one. It started normally enough. A young man protecting his sister from predators at a party. But halfway through, I noticed pages missing, torn out. What was left behind was darker than anything before. The air around me grew heavy. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred as if gas was filling the room. My chest tightened. I dropped the book, clawing at my throat, but my hands turned the page on their own as if something else was inside me, forcing me to keep going. And then I saw it. On the page, the young man strapped to a table, his sister's body dissected beside him. In the reflection of a mirror, he wasn't a man anymore, just nerves and eyes suspended in tubes. And in my bathroom mirror, for a second, I swear to you, I saw the same thing. My flesh is gone, my body reduced to cords and wires of red dangling from a pulsing brain. I screamed and smashed the mirror with my fist. The breaking point. By then, I was terrified of the book, but it wouldn't leave me alone. I'd catch myself staring at it from across the room, its blue leather gleaming faintly like it was breathing. At night, I dreamed of its pages turning on their own. Finally, I gave in again. I opened it one last time. The story I landed on was about a priestess who refused to submit to invading soldiers. They gouged out her eyes with a heated blade. I dropped the book immediately, clutching my face. My vision went black. The pain was blinding. I staggered through my apartment, smashing into walls, screaming until I collapsed. When my sight returned minutes later, I was sobbing on the floor. That was 3 nights ago. The last page. The final section I glimpsed was titled Void. Just one sentence before I snapped the book shut. Quote, "There was a girl who feared she would disappear." End quote. I couldn't go further. I won't. Because if the book makes every story real, if reading it makes me live it, then what happens when I read about someone who vanishes? I've hidden the book in my closet, but I can still feel it calling me every night, whispering. I don't know how much longer I can resist. If I disappear, it's because I opened it again. And if anyone finds this story, please, please don't try to find that book. It doesn't just tell stories. It writes you into them. Some books entertain, some books teach, but this one,
It watches, it waits, and maybe, just maybe, it's reading you right now. This was The Book That Reads Me, and if you think you're safe after closing it, think again. I'll see you in the next nightmare. You're watching The Boogeyman, where stories never sleep, and neither will you.